Another one of our Midwest Tour Rookie of the Year contenders from Columbus. Here comes Bryce Miller.
Welcome, everyone, to the very first podcast of the Underbird Lap with Bryce Miller. I'm really excited to kick things off, not just as a race car driver myself, but as someone who is part of the Kulwicki driver development program. Alan Kulwicki wasn't just a NASCAR champion. He was an independent racer who did things his own way, and I want this podcast to help carry on his legacy by sharing stories from the racing world, both past and present. Tonight, I'm honored to welcome our very first guest to the show, Geoff Bodine. Geoff, thanks for coming on the show.
Well, Bryce, no, it's my pleasure. I love doing these shows because a lot of race fans watch, a lot of people that watch that aren't race fans, so hopefully we can make them race fans if they're not already, and explain a little bit about racing. But like you said, the late Alan Kulwicki, he was a unique individual. He was a champion when he died, NASCAR champion, which is tragic. But he's a great guy. He's a quiet guy. Tell you the truth, I didn't have much communication with Alan. We were at Atlanta, and I think we were just practicing. And I was in the motorcraft car, Bud Moore's car, and I went to go around him. He slid up, and we just scraped a little bit, and we chatted about that, laughed. It was no big deal. But when the race that he won the championship in, of course, I was driving a Ford. He was a Ford. I could have raced him and messed things up and raced Bill and messed things up, Bill Elliott, but I let them both go, being a Ford driver, so that you didn't want to be a factor in who won the championship. Let those guys race it out. And of course, Alan led more laps and he got more points, and he ended up the champion, which was great. We had a big party that night. Ford did up in Atlanta, and don't remember much about it. We were all celebrating his championship, but never gave it a thought at that time that I would eventually buy his team. Never dreamed that he was going to get killed in a plane crash going to Bristol from an appearance. Farthest thing from anyone's mind. We all did appearances. We all flew in planes, and basically no problem. Some rough weather once in a while, but I was in Bristol in my motor coach. There weren't many people had motor coaches then. I did, and parked along a creek right by the racetrack. And my wife and I woke up, turned the TV on, and there it was. Wow, what a shock. Alan Kulwicki killed in a plane crash on the way to Bristol. So that obviously that day was quite a solemn day. It was really difficult for everyone that was at the track to watch that number 7 transporter leave. It was terribly hard on the crew and Peter Jellin, who was driving the transporter. And but even then, I no idea that didn't know what was going to happen to the team, but had no idea that I was going to be picked by the executor of the will, Felix Sabatis. He came to me, I'm not sure when, it might have been that weekend. I really can't tell you, but he said, "You need to buy that team." I said, "What are you talking about?" Well, everyone knew I was an on-hands driver. I like to be with the team. I went to the shops. I worked on the cars. I did all that stuff. And he said, "Yeah, you're the guy that needs to buy it." I said, "Well, I don't know about that." Went and talked it over with my wife. And in the meantime, Payne Stewart came up. He wanted to buy the team. Payne Stewart, the golfer. And all of this is quite coincidental because at that time not at that time, but Mr. Kulwicki got involved in the negotiations, and Payne had the money. He was ready to put it down, but Mr. Kulwicki said, "No, I know Alan would want a real racer to own the team. And, Geoff is a real racer. And, he said to Felix, if you think he's the guy, well, let's go with it. So they picked me. And, of course, at that time, my wife had said, okay, let's do it. But she also said, this might break us up. I said, no, there's no way. It was about a mile or an hour to the shop from where I lived then. And I said, I won't spend any more time away from you, the family, than what I do now. So it shouldn't. Well, that weekend we were going to Sears Point to race. And I was driving a 15 car. And I just had put on, I told Travis Carter and Donnie Wingo, they're co-crew chiefs of that team. I told them, look, we can win this race. I almost didn't do it because I just bought this team. I didn't want to give away all my secrets. Excuse me, but I said, no, I want to win the race. I had them put a rear anti-roll bar in the car. Nobody had used them. They're on every car in the whole world, trucks. And I'd run one on my modifieds. When I ran modifieds, I had it on my late model. And I actually had it on the 5 car a little bit, but Rick Henry, Harry Hyde make me take it off. It worked, but Harry Hyde was old school. He didn't want anything new. And Bud Moore was old school. So, I told Travis and Donnie, I said, you're going to have to do this at night. Don't tell Bud. No, they didn't tell Bud. They went in after I went home and built it the way I told them. Showed up at the racetrack, and we won the race. And it was bittersweet. Number one, I did the Polish victory lap, and everyone's thinking, why the heck's he doing that? And then I made the announcement that I just bought that team. And that's when my world, I'm thinking spun out, but it didn't really spin out. It just got better. But it was more.
For sure.
I owned modifieds, and I acted like I owned late models. Emmanuel Zavrakis owned them, and Frank Plessinger and people like that. But because I worked, I was a big part of the team, not just a driver, but setting them up and getting them ready. So, I guess Felix thought I had the experience to be the owner, and thank Mr. Kulwicki for wanting me. And but later on, I said the whole thing was kind of strange because after I bought the team, we needed airplanes back then, so I bought a Learjet, Lear 25, the same kind of plane Payne Stewart died in. Was that ironic or what? I mean, yeah. Terrible. Two tragedies, but we're all connected. He wanted the team, and then we had the same airplane, and he's dead, and I'm still here. Thank God. But it was quite a transition. I drove for Bud most of the rest of the year. Had Jimmy Hensley in the car. Oh yeah. Oh, this is another part of the twist. Hooters, was sponsoring Alan, and they wanted this young driver named Loy Allen to drive the car. Well, right after Alan died, they put Jimmy Hensley in the car. I didn't do it. That was Mr. Kulwicki and Felix Zavrakis' deal. And he was doing a great job. Jimmy was a good driver and really feeling any good. He didn't win, but he didn't wreck. And but Hooters wanted this Loy Allen, and I said no, I'm going to keep. Mr. Kulwicki wants Jimmy. I want Jimmy. We're going to keep Jimmy. They pulled the sponsorship. Here I bought a team with a sponsor, and I lose it immediately because I wouldn't put their guy in to drive it. So Jimmy drove it. I'm not sure what race I took over. Might have been Indy. I'm not sure. Anyway, it was. We tested there. And I built bobsled, so and Indianapolis Motor Speedway helped the bobsled project with some money. So we went to test, and I put Bodine bobsled, all this USA, Miss Indianapolis on the car, and there's pictures of that going around the track. And I was the first car on the track, which I wanted to be. I told my crew, Paul, I kept the whole crew, everybody, engine people, everybody, Danny Glad, even Danny Cameron. Whew, you know him.
Yes, I do.
We love Danny. He was a spotter. But I told them all, I said, I want to be the first guy in line and get on the track first. Well, Earnhardt wanted to be the first, so he was behind me. Well, we took off. And back in those days, you'd make a slow lap or two to warm things up. I looked in the mirror down the backstretch, and here he comes, Earnhardt. So I gassed it up. I beat him back to the finish line, and he was pretty mad. Dale and I didn't get along too good. Yeah, that was another strike against me as far as him liking me. But we were the first car to make a lap, and I'm not sure what happened in the race.
When you transitioned to owning Alan Kulwicki Racing, and you said you brought a lot of those same guys back that worked for Alan, what was that? Was that transition tough for them, like accepting you? Because obviously they bought in with what Alan was doing, and he was everything to them. What was that like, kind of learning to work with those new people?
No, they knew me. I mean, heck, they were at the racetrack. They knew who Geoff Bodine was. They saw me in operation, but it was hard for them to work with me because Alan was a hands-on guy. He oversaw everything everyone did. Well, I gave Danny Glad, the engine guy, free rein. You build the engines. I'm not going to look over your shoulder. I know you can do it. Paul Andrews, the crew chief, you handle everybody. I know you can do it. You've done it. And the body, everyone. I was there looking, but I wasn't looking over the shoulder. What are you doing? And Alan always did. So that was a big change for them because hey, now they're more responsible for what they're doing because Alan wasn't there showing them or telling them what to do. So that was a big change for them. So it wasn't a big change for me. I mean, I worked with a lot of different teams and crew chiefs and mechanics and got along with everybody. And I'm kind of easy to get along with unless you mess up. Then I'll tell you. But no, it was. I mean, they treated me really nice, which it wouldn't have worked if they hadn't. But yeah, it was an easy transition for me, though. It wasn't when Jimmy was still driving a car. That was a little tough. I own that car, but when I got into it, it was just like any other weekend race. I'm driving and I'm working on it, helping set up and all that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So kind of taking a step back, obviously you hold the world record for the most modified wins in 1 year. When you kind of started out racing, what did you start out racing? And then kind of where did the innovation side of you come from? Obviously, with the full containment seats, the bobsled stuff, and then obviously power steering as well. Where did all that kind of come from, or does that just come natural to you?
Well, it came natural from God. I mean, I was born into racing. My parents built a racetrack. I'm a farm kid. My grandfather had a big dairy farm and chicken farm. My parents ran the chicken side, but I worked everywhere. And as a kid, they built this dirt track when I was a year old. Took a cornfield and dug it up right in the farm, right next to the cows. They loved the racing at night. They had their heads out watching. No, but kind of unique. And when the local parents wanted my father and grandfather to build a little track inside for the kids. Their kids were racing. They call them micro midgets. Little brick and Stratton engine, had a body on them. So my dad built me one when I was 5 years old. So I started driving when I was 5. I had uncles that raced. My dad never sat in a race car. He was superstitious. But I had uncles and Uncle Maynard, Earl, and Jimmy. Earl was the driver. He was really good. Uncle Maynard was the mechanic as far as engines, and he taught me how to build engines and clean parts. First, they taught me how to sweep the floor. A dirt track, a lot of mud in the floor. So, and Uncle Jimmy, he just did everything. But so I had a great upbringing, and even through all that, I wrestled in high school. Started in grade school, went right through high school. I love wrestling. Uh, we played football in the side yard. Back then we didn't have these stupid things. They're great, but they're bad. And the iPad I'm watching on right now, with kids are on them. They're not outside like we used to be. We didn't have any of this. We were outside playing, running, jumping, exercising. Kids today, they don't have gym class. I hope President Trump and all his cabinet get that back into schools. Kids need to be outside, running and jumping and exercising. But that's off the subject. That's not part of the racing subject. But that's what we did. But I was very fortunate. I still race my little micro midget. On that, I learned a valuable lesson one day. I was leading a race. We raced before the big cars race. I was leading a race, came off turn 4, and I looked around to see where the guys were behind me, and a guy passed me and beat me. So my motto is never look back. So I never looked back. And new guys asked me, what should I do? What should I do? I said, never look back. It cost me my first win.
Take all your mirrors out.
Yeah. Well, mirrors are all right. Just don't turn around and look, because I didn't see him coming by. But that's how I got started in racing. And but okay, so was it just luck? I had those parents and grandparents that had this big farm, and the local guys came to and said, build us a racetrack. No, I say God put me with the right parents. I'm a Christian, and actually I wrote a book, all of it. And in that book, it talks about my Christianity, and that's how God saved me many times in racing, especially that crash I had in Daytona in 2000. But other times, but to me, he gave me the right parents, gave me the right opportunities. I'm a farm kid. I used to shovel chicken stuff and cow stuff and collect eggs for underneath the chickens and milk the cow. I did all that. The hay, bale the hay. How do you learn anything about building race cars and making them better? But God gave me that talent. He gave me that gift. Now I didn't know it back then. I thought it was me. Pat yourself on the back. And I didn't go to church a lot because we raced Saturday nights and had to pick the trash up all day Sunday, and clean the toilets. I love picking up the trash because people lose change out of their pockets. And you'd find 50 cents, $1 maybe. That was a lot of money back then. But that's, we go to church in the wintertime, but not all the time. But we knew what God was. But really didn't know what that meant. That didn't happen until late in my career. I won 55 man events in a modified. That's just not the most anyone's won in a modified. That's the most because they're all NASCAR tracks that I won at.
Okay.
That's the most races at any NASCAR driver at NASCAR tracks has won. That's in the Guinness Book of Records. Rich Petty's won 200 over that in his career, but I won 55 in 1 year NASCAR track. So that was pretty special. I mean, I was just racing, and we just had a great car, and because we had some pretty neat stuff on it. NASCAR made a lot of rules. Even after I bought Alan's team, we came up with a lot of ideas to make things better, and they weren't illegal until they saw it, and then they made a rule making it illegal. That's kind of a compliment, but some of the things we designed were for safety, and they just didn't take it that way. But yeah, the full face helmets I brought to NASCAR, and the modern day seat I brought. Power steering, yeah, I was the first guy to have that. And rear anti-roll bars. We had a lot of stuff. I had a braking system that was a lot safer but they outlawed it. It's better, but it's safer. Your wheels didn't jump up and down and you'd wreck. That's used to be how it used to be. So anyway, that was my upbringing in racing. Went to college, community college, Corning Community for mechanical engineering to learn more about engineering. I went in and asked my professor one day a question, and he said, I really don't know what to tell you. I said, well, I don't need you anymore. So I didn't finish, but when he couldn't help me, I said, well, I'm on my own now.
Yep.
I spent 6 years in the National Guard, so I've lived a blessed life. How do you do all those things? God has led me to do them. I mean, why did I build bobsleds? I started that in actually '93. Watching the Olympics, our kids weren't using American-made bobsleds. They weren't doing good. And my dad was in World War II, got shot in the butt. He was at Normandy. He ran up the hill and turned and waved his troops on and got shot in the butt. I said, Dad, I'm glad you turned around. The other side, I wouldn't be here. But so yeah, we're patriotic, love our country, USA people. And when I heard they weren't using American-made bobsleds, I said that's unacceptable. And I went to Lake Placid, found out they weren't, found out why, all the stories. And when I left Lake Placid, I told them I'm going to build them some bobsleds. Now they thought I'd go back to North Carolina and race and forget all about it. But when you move these things here and something comes out, you're obligated to do what you say. Some people don't, but thank God I did. And we ended up building the best in the world. I didn't build them. I hired friends of mine to do it. I had the money. I was making money, so I could afford to send the money. Start out for $25,000, ended up with over $500,000. But I'm glad we did that. We changed the way bobsleds are built around the world, so that's pretty cool to be able to do that. How does a farm kid from Chemung, New York, end up winning Daytona 500, owning a NASCAR team, building bobsleds for to compete in a world competition? How do you end up doing that? It wasn't me. It was God. Just kept leading me and inspiring me, and so I give him all the credit. I take all the credit for bad stuff I've done. We're all sinners, right? That's really why I wrote this book. We're getting a little off the subject, maybe, but no, I take credit for all the crap. We all are sinners till we die, but I don't sin like I used to, because I preach. I really do preach. I was in Pennsylvania at Jennerstown Speedway 2 weeks ago for a vintage event. But they had a race Saturday night. They asked me if I'd get up and pray. I've never had to do that. I prayed at the table and around people and meetings, but never with all these people. Whenever I get in that position, what I do, I say, God, you put me here. You got to give me the words. And he does. He gives me the words. So I hope I get to do more of that. Some drivers, you see them on TV before the cup race, they do it. So maybe one day that'll happen. But so my faith is really important to me. And really that's like on my book, believing in God and accepting Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior is the most important thing you can ever do in your life. Because if you don't accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, according to the Bible, according to what Jesus says in the Bible, you're not going to heaven. So now, if you don't believe in heaven, that's up to you. I read the Bible. That's the only book I read. It's a Bible. I'm through it. I'm going through it for, I think, my third time. So I believe what's in there. But anyway, and that inspired me to buy Alan's team. I didn't do that on my own. I had to do some praying and thinking, and we did it. Glad we did it. Didn't work out exactly the way I liked it to. We won races. The first race we won as a team was the All-Star race at Charlotte, which was neat because the shop was right behind the back straightaway. And of course, I did the Polish victory lap, and I couldn't have been in a better place to win the first race. And then we went on to win more. And we kept having engine problems, and probably should have won about 14 or 15 races. I only won four. So, and we ended up with sponsors and racing. That probably is the hardest thing to do, right? Ever. Back then, it
Yeah,
was really hard.
I would
I
agree.
don't know about now, but
It hasn't
yeah,
gotten easier, I'll tell you
you
that.
know, yeah. Well, in short track racing, it's almost impossible. If you don't get on TV or radio or uh, some of these channels that cover short track racing, it's really hard to get sponsors. And
Yeah, luckily now, like with the short track world, that a lot of or I would say about 99% of my races are live streamed, so it is a little bit
yeah,
more
yeah,
attractive for sponsors, and doing podcasts and stuff
definitely,
like this helps a lot. But it is definitely a struggle because these cars have, I mean, racing's expensive. It's not a cheap sport, and when you're putting multiple sets of tires on a night and the amount of money these cars cost, it is a huge struggle, especially, when you're starting out, you're trying to build up your name, and
yeah,
so it is stuff we still deal with today.
yeah. I raced modifieds and late models in the '70s. They paid as much then as they're paying now for a race. It's crazy. And the expenses have quadrupled. But unfortunately, talking about sponsors, I had one that I lost one when I bought the team. That was Hooters. That was not fun. But I had QVC. And you married?
I am not married, no.
Okay, well, your girlfriend, tell them not to buy from QVC. They
Okay.
cheated me. They cheated me out of just 1 year, $18 million. So what happened? I had to keep paying the bills out of my pocket, and I'd run out. I wasn't going to spend every nickel I had. But then I actually Felix Sabates introduced me to two gentlemen, very wealthy. One had a search engine on the internet, Inktomy, and the other was a co-founder of WorldCom. If you don't know about them, look them up. WorldCom was huge. Inktomy was huge. They were millionaires. Well, WorldCom went under, and I had stock in both and lost every nickel of it. I was going through a divorce and the race team, but anyway, I ended up with two owners, co-owners. Well, they kind of forced me out. Now they paid me some money, but not. I had added on to the shop a whole addition with offices on top, a whole new engine shop, just expanded, really nice. Uh, I bought the buildings in front of the shop. That's where the truck teams were. I had a couple of truck teams, and yeah, I was forced out. And that's and I had preserved Alan's office. You walk in the front and you turn to the left, and his office was down there, a little hallway. I had everything was in there just like he left it. I put plexiglass up so nobody could go in there and steal anything or any race fans, because right in that same hallway was a viewing window where race fans could come in and watch everyone work, which they did a lot. And these two partners, when they got in there, they tore it down.
Really?
I mean, he deserved to preserve what he had done. And that's how I felt. So that's why we maintained never took anything, never moved anything on his. It was just the way he had it when he was killed. And they go in there and just rip it out. That broke my heart and everyone and the team's heart.
I know they are actually reviving the 1992 championship car that was actually in the Las Vegas Hooters. The team's kind of getting back together, and they're going to actually restore that car. Just like, I mean, they've all built it once, so they're going to do it again. So that's pretty
That's yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah. That'd be great. He deserves it. He has a thing up where he came, where a memorial up where he grew up.
Which is
I've
like
never been.
40 minutes from my house. So
Oh, yeah.
I'm actually going to go stop and see it.
I've never been there. I've talked to the people, but just circumstances. I've never gotten up there. I'm not a rich retired race driver. Like I said, I got cheated by a lot of people, and so anyway, I'm glad I owned the team for a while. I'm glad we won races with the team. Uh, well, actually, with that team, I lapped the field at North Wilkesboro in '84, or yeah, '94, '84. Wait a minute, not '84, '94. Lapped the field. I'm the last guy to lap the entire field. They were all mad at me. I said, I didn't do it on purpose. You guys just didn't go fast enough. But that was with the 7 car, and that was really special. Winning that race, uh, winning the All Star race, the Winston at Charlotte. We went Pocono. We had so many races. We won just engine proud. But I'm very fortunate, very blessed to have had those opportunities, and I wish sponsor hadn't cheated me out all that money, and I still had the team, but I wouldn't be driving. Maybe you'd be in there. See,
Yeah.
that affects you too. See, I'm too old to drive. I don't want to drive. I after all that, I did some driving. Almost won Daytona after the crash in 2000. Everyone thought I was dead at Daytona. 2002, I had a pretty good ride with James Finch. Had Miccosukee Indians in Florida here as the sponsor. That's when Sterling Marlin got out, the red flag at the end, and pulled his fender off. He'd hit Gordon and caused a wreck, and he got out of the car and pulled the fender off. Of course, they put him to the rear. You can't do that. And I'd hit something. I told my crew, now, I don't know if I have a flat. I don't know what happened, but I'm not getting out. But this car was fast. I came from the back right to the front. I mean, it was flying. And I ended up behind Will Burton, so I'm second on a restart. I said, man, this car is fast. I mean, I came from the back to the front in like 18 laps. I took off, and man, I'm pushing that gas pedal as hard as I could, and uh, somebody got by me. It was a green-white checker, and I ended up third. And I coming in the pits, we stopped on pit road. I said, guys, I don't know what the heck happened. It just wouldn't go. And they said, come on, get out. I'd hit something when Sterling hit Gordon. I don't know what it was. And it smashed the whole left front end. So I was aerodynamically wounded. That's why I didn't go. But then I started helping friends. They didn't have enough money to win with their car, just helping friends. Looking bad, but I was helping friends, and got criticized for it. I said, look, I'm helping friends. I don't have anything to prove. I've won races, and I'm okay with all that. But I'm helping these people that need to get in a race and try to make a little money. But that's how I ended my career. And now I'm down here in Melbourne, Florida. I work with a guy. We build Corvettes for road racing, just club racing. There's no money involved. Well, the money is involved to pay us for the car or to fix their car when they wreck it or whatever. But I enjoy, because I'm a fabricator. That's what I did when I started, and that's what I'm doing when I'm ending my career, my life. I'm 76, and I work 7, 8 hours a day and love it, but it's getting old. I don't like getting my hands greasy under the fingernails.
Well, it's a good thing you got Corvettes and not a modified anymore.
Well, yeah, I built a late model for a guy that races New Smyrna. He owns an Ace Hardware store. We're good friends, and that's been fun. Pretty neat what I can do there with that car. But yeah, it was quite a. I never, never dreamed that I'd own a Cup team. Never. So, wish Alan had never got killed. Wish he was still here, of course. But life, and why that happened, maybe one day we'll all know why that pilot messed up. It's happened a lot of plane crashes or pilot error, and that certainly was. But Alan, thanks for the opportunity. He had a great team, and he was a great driver. He was an engineer, kind of like me. He loved to work on those cars and set them up and all that. So that kind of fit with the team.
For sure. Do you think that's what Alan wanted his legacy to be? It's that engineer, hands-on, and could drive a race car as well.
That's what Mr. Quickie wanted. And I thank him for that. He's gone now, and his wife. And um, if you think about all that, it's a sad ending. But if you think about the other side, he was successful, and you never know how long you're going to be here. So enjoy. I tell my kids, I tell everybody, God wants you to use life. Just don't misuse it. And Alan used it. Now, we all sinners. We all mess up. But he used his life. He proved he was a great race driver. Won the darn championship. The underdog. So, yeah, it's sad, but it's a pretty darn good story.
For sure.
Just wish it had been a little longer.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool getting to carry on Alan's legacy through this program and get to talk to people like you. And there's obviously 5 of us, and we're all young in our racing careers. And what lessons would you take from Alan that you'd give to us drivers today or yourself?
Racing is tough. It's tough. It's expensive. It takes you'd work 24/7, 7 days a week. I mean, it's all you do. That's all I did. I went to school, but I'd drive home to work on a race car back when I was racing late models on dirt, and then drive back in the morning to school. So yeah, that's what I tell everyone. I told my brother Brett has a son that was headed that way, but then he went to college, going to be a pitcher. He left-handed pitcher, really good. I said, Brett, get him some golf clubs. Yeah, he's really good at golf. I said, well, get him the golf. He pulled his elbow out, so now he's out of pitching. You can get hurt in golf. You might get hit with a golf ball once in a while, but normally you might have a little back trouble. But so yeah, you golf?
I do golf. I was actually played varsity all 4 years in high school, but
Go
there's
golfing.
no time to go golfing anymore. It's just strictly race shop. I haven't golfed all summer long, so it's just racing now.
You asked me, Bryce, what my suggestions were, and racing is so different. And look at how many guys make the NASCAR. How many make it to Cup? 40?
Not many. Yeah.
38? There used to be like 45. They don't start as many cars now. So that's how difficult. And there's thousands of you around the country that want to be there. And it's really hard to be there. I won a lot of races. I still wasn't getting there. You know what I had to do after winning all those races? I had to move to North Carolina. I had to I drove a late model. I drove a late model 2 years for Amanda Vacas, winning races. That still didn't do it. I drove for Frank Plessinger. He owns Hagerstown Speedway, a dirt track in Maryland. Ragtag team. And back then, the late model teams didn't have that big connection with the Cup teams. So, I mean, David Pearson was in the race at Darlington, Earnhardt, Gant, Allison. I mean, they're all there, but they didn't have that big connection with the teams. I won the race. I beat everybody. They didn't fall out. I started right behind David Pearson. I tell this story, and I told him while he was alive, I said, I started right behind you. I said, he's going to teach me how to drive this track. He was great on that track. And he did. Very cautious, passing people, and just race the track, make the move at the right time. I ended up winning the race. Well, guess what? The next night, I got a call from a Cup team owner, Cliff Stewart. Hey, if you can win Darlington, you can win anywhere. Come down here to the shop. That's how I got my ride by winning that one race. I raced my whole life, but that's what it took to get to that one race. So, moved to North Carolina. You got to be there, unless you got money. And there's kids, don't need to name any names, that are buying their way in. And there's a lot of good drivers now. You see, they're signing. How old are you?
I am 25.
Well, I was 32 when I got my first full-time cup ride. You know how old these kids are now? They're signing up when they're 15, 16 because they see them driving the go-karts and all that stuff. And they help them. And if they show potential, they'll move them in maybe to a late model and then a truck and then move them up. There's kids 18 years old. You got to be 18 to drive a cup car. And so that's how young they're getting in those cars, which is
For sure.
crazy.
Yeah.
Listen to
No,
this.
go
I
ahead.
got one more story. This is pretty interesting. It's in the book. You need to get the book. Go on teambodine.square.site. All that info comes here, the house. I autograph the book and we send it back. Teambodine.square.site. You can get it on Amazon, but it won't be autographed.
Okay.
Or if you see me at a racetrack. But I was so desperate. I was winning races. I wanted to race. I knew I could race. My father owned the track. I drove the tractor around there and water truck, and I knew I could do it. But they wouldn't let me race until I was 18 and graduated from high school. Well, I built a car that winter in my uncle's shop, which was right next to the track. I parked it outside. I'd move it inside at night to work on it. But before that, I wanted to race. So I borrowed my dad promoted, so he'd always have a powder puff derby for the women at least once a month. That's some good women back then. I mean, there's some good ones out there now. That girl that raced at Indy, I can't think of her name. I mean, she's got potential. I can't think of her
For
name.
sure.
She's really, yeah. I think she finished 14th or 17th, something. But anyway, I borrowed a car from one of my cousin's boyfriends, Mike Casterline. I borrowed a wig from my cousin, Pam. They're married now. Because we didn't have big helmets then. So I had a wig, entered the powder puff derby. Now no one knew it. I kind of they were already out getting ready to go. I just pull out behind them. Well, I took the lead, and I'm leading. And I said, I can't win. My father always gave the winner a hug, a kiss, and a trophy. I said, I can't. So I had to shut it off and coast off. My parents didn't know that until their 50th wedding anniversary. My brother Brett
Holy
told that
cow.
story. My mother shook her finger at me. Jeffrey, you shouldn't have done that. I said, Ma, it was a long time ago. You shouldn't have done that. But that's how bad I wanted to be a race driver. I dressed up as a woman.
Wow. That's pretty
Now men are
incredible.
dressed. Now, so yeah, those are just some of the things I went through to get to where I got.
For
And
sure.
thank God for all those things. And I give him all the credit, all the opportunities. I thought it was me, and when I got my first full time ride, had everything: house, family, dogs, cats, a wife, uh, a cup ride, which I was a dream. I wasn't happy. I didn't have God in my life. That's what I discovered, and so that's when I started searching, and that's when things changed, and life didn't get any easier, but it got easier to deal with the tough times, and that's what God doesn't promise you won't have trouble. He says you will, but I'll be there to help you get through them. And that's what he did for me. And he led me down the road. And you read the book, and there's a whole bunch more in there about everything. And teambodine.square.site. No one's thrown it back at me. No one's burned it yet. So they all say it's good.
So
So
I'm definitely gonna buy it, and I'm gonna
I
have you
enjoy it.
sign it and ship it back to me. So,
Yeah.
but I think it's pretty cool, just your faith and how Alan was a Catholic as well, and he was very devoted to his faith. So,
Sure. Yeah.
I went to Catholic school growing up, so I have a deep faith as well. So it's kind
Good.
of cool to draw that full circle.
Most important thing you can have in life. You gotta have it, or life gets pretty lonely.
100%. So, last couple things is it's just an honor to have you on this podcast and kind of share a little bit about Alan's story and how it came to be that you got to buy the team. And appreciate you having joining me on this podcast. And I know there's a lot more we didn't touch. Obviously, the big wreck in Daytona, and I've
In
watched
the
the
book,
video of
it's all in the book. Tells
moved.
the whole story. There's a
I think
real
the most
reason why that. There's a real reason why that happened, and what happened during, and what's happened after it. So it's pretty darn interesting, and just an expansion of my faith. I had faith way before that, so that didn't give me the faith in God and Jesus, but it showed how important it was. So yeah, it's been great being on the show. And where do you race? I don't even know where you race.
Yeah, so I race in the Midwest. So I'm grow up right outside of Madison, Wisconsin, and I
Okay.
race in the super late model ranks, and we go all over and a lot of tracks that Alan grew up racing. So we hit almost every track in the Midwest here, and our races are range from 100 laps to 250 laps. So
Mhm.
they're pretty good sized races, and
Yeah,
we get to race against some of the best. Obviously, Ty Majeski is kind of the name right now, and
sure.
so we get to race against him every single week, and it's cool to see the NASCAR guys as well come back and race in Wisconsin. So next Tuesday we have a 250 lap race. It's called the Dixieland Race, which Earnhardt and other Bobby Allison, a lot of those guys ran back in the day when they were, Eric Jones is actually going to be coming back this Tuesday, and
Cool.
he's going to I'll get to race against him as well. So.
Yeah, that was
Um,
wreck at Indy. Yeah, that was a tough wreck he had at Indy. That wasn't his
y-
fault, man.
it was not his fault at all, and it was kind of a crazy ending. But
Yeah.
the cool part about racing in Wisconsin and growing up in Wisconsin is it's a lot of father and son in the race shop, the family teams. So
Mhm.
it's not so much as a business up here. It's kind of we all own our own race cars and work on our own race cars and building the shocks and the bump stops and setting all the cars up. So
Yeah.
it's cool that that's kind of hasn't gotten away up here. We're still all working on it ourselves, and
Hmm.
it's a little bit different than kind of more towards in the south.
Yeah. Yeah. When I came up through, we worked on everything too, and um, but that's how you learn to make it better. I learned a long time ago, if I build a better car, it's easier for me to win. And so built, God and I built a better car.
For
He
sure.
led me to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Well, good
sometimes you have
luck
to
up
make
there.
the.
But
Thank you, I appreciate it. So
you said you play golf. Go buy get a good set of clubs and get out in that green grass, nice, pretty, beautiful, and nice settings. And you make it up there. You don't even have to buy the balls and the clubs and the clothes. They give them all to you. And people want you to stay at their house. So, the expenses are way down compared to NASCAR.
oh yeah,
Race.
I mean I could buy a new set of clubs every single week for what I spend on titles. So uh,
Uh,
I got all the clubs in that, but the racing bug has gotten me. So
that's okay.
it's
I can tell. I can tell.
yeah.
Short track racing is great, and it hasn't gone away. We've lost some tracks, but my father's track was built in '50, and it's still operating. It was this
Do
quarter
you ever
mile
get to
dirt.
go back?
Yeah, my brothers and I have been back. It's right not far from Watkins Glen. It started out of the quarter mile dirt, then we built a third mile dirt, and then paved the third mile asphalt, and now it's a half mile asphalt. They kept, and the people that own it now really have done a great job, and grandstands, everything. The the one concession stand that I helped build with Cinderblast is still there. They didn't tear that down; it's still there. They built a nicer one, but that one's still there. I said I built that building. Yeah, my brother's Brett's 10 years younger than I am, and Todd's another 5 years younger. So they weren't as involved in all the farm and the racetrack as I was. So I'm very thankful that I worked right side by side with my father and my mother. She worked hard. And we had a dairy store. My father made all his own ice cream. I had the first taste of the first ice cream he made. So, those things. That doesn't sound so important, but to who it's to me, those things are important. You only have one set of parents, and hopefully one day I know where they are. Hopefully I'll get there with them and see we'll talk about whatever.
It's pretty
But
cool you had the childhood you had growing up, and not only
yeah,
could you build a race car, a bobsled, you could build a a brick building as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I did it all, but that's I don't know much about how Alan grew up. I'm sure you do, but he sure ended up. I know he was an engineer, went to college, so that was, I kind of went there, but I didn't finish. I think he did. Uh,
He went to
yeah,
Milwaukee actually, and he did
yeah,
graduate.
yeah. They wanted me to come back, but I said why?
They probably wanted you to come back so you could teach the classes since the professor didn't know.
Well, no, I would have done that, but no, you're racing. You're too darn busy. I mean, it's a full-time job. You might get a couple weeks off in wintertime, but back then we used to be able to test. We would go test. I tested tires for Goodyear, Firestone, and Hoosier, and so that kept us busy. But back then you could just go test your setup at any track, just rent it. A lot of guys would go. So you were racing all the darn time, which a race driver loved, right? Up there in Wisconsin, your seasons are kind of short.
They are short, yeah, and it's tough to test because you can't test 2 weeks prior to one of, and so you have to kind of strategically plan. And we only have one race car, so you're
Yeah,
usually at a different race prior to that, so you're not able to test. So you have to
yeah,
be really creative on when you're doing it, and it does make it tough because we don't get a ton of practice. So you
hmm
get 2 20-minute sessions, and you're only going to get out maybe once or twice a
yeah,
session. So when you unload to get to the racetrack, you got to be fast right away and just kind of fine
mhm,
tune. You can't be building setups like you would on a tire test.
yeah. Have you ever been to New Smyrna?
I have been to New Smyrna. Yeah, it's a lot like a track we have up here called Madison International Speedway.
Uh-huh. I still had a track record there in a modified, well, in anything. That was back in 1981. I mean, one of my competitors kept putting aero stuff on his car, so I kept putting it on. We kept putting it on, kept going faster. Big block, 454 Chevy, and uh, you'd drive down in a corner just wide open, and just in the middle, you might lift a little bit to get it to turn. I mean, they finally said, "Don't go any faster. Don't do anything. You can't do anything else." I said, "Thank you." I mean, it was awesome, but it was scary. But I still have that track record. It's crazy fast, but so yeah, they're all in the book. All these stories, and so I've been very blessed in my career. It's hard to do it. That to It would be hard right now to do those same things I did. The world's changed. Financially, it's more expensive. Uh, More and people are. It's hard to build a better car because everyone buys good cars.
For
You
sure.
know that car we built in 81, that basic design they're still using in modifieds. Now they've changed more sidebars and bumpers and stuff, but the basic design is still there. That's how far ahead of everyone else we were back then.
Yeah, we're
And
definitely a lot more in a box now, as obviously you created all the rules, so we should be pointing fingers at you. But
well, that's
it's
the
definitely
problem. That's one problem with Cup. We used to have a big box we could play in, and then it got smaller and smaller. Now there's nothing. You can't do anything. They have when you buy the kit, the car kit from NASCAR, they give you a box of nuts and bolts, and they're all numbered. And you got to put that nut, bolt, washer in the right hole, or you get fined. It's insane. It's insane. I mean,
do you get to many races today or go to any short tracks much?
no, I was in Martinsville because that was the first race I was Rick Henry's first driver,
Hmm.
and that's where I won my first Cup race, and it was his first Cup race. And
And that would
if
have
I had
been the
won, if I hadn't won that race, he was going to shut the door, and he wouldn't be a Henrik Motorsports. He wrote the foreword to my book, and he tells that whole story in there. And so that was an important race. I've been up there a few times. I've been to North Wilkesboro. That's a fun place to go. I lapped the field there, and glad they reopened it. That was a real racetrack. You know, Downhill, the front straight, uphill, and back then it was asphalt was wore out, so you really had to get the setup right and drive right. Now with the new pavement and stuff, it's a different track, but it's still a real racetrack. They're going to have a race at Rockingham. I think a truck race, maybe an Xfinity race. Now that's a real racetrack. That was a tough one. Yeah, that was tough. So it's good they're bringing some of these other tracks back and getting rid of some of those cookie cutter tracks. But I get to a few. You know, with this book, we went to Charlotte, and we went to Wilkesboro, we went to Darlington twice. I wanted to go to Watkins Glen. That's home. I don't know if I'm going to get there this year. Just got so much going on, and we'll have to see.
Yeah, that's we have to maybe get you up to Wisconsin here and check out a short track. And
I was up at where was that track? Ty was there when I was up there.
would it be Slinger?
No, keep naming them. It's a famous.
There's Slinger, Madison International Speedway, Kaukauna, which would be Wisconsin International Raceway.
It's a famous track. They call it the fastest half mile.
Yep, that'd be Madison International Speedway.
Yeah, High Bank.
Yep, just like New Smyrna. Bobby Labonte was actually there this past weekend, and he was kind of help mentoring a guy. So
Okay, yeah, I was there for the start the race and
the Joe Shear Classic, most likely. It was a Sunday afternoon.
yeah.
Yeah, so we had every the first weekend in May on Sunday is
Yeah.
the big Joe Shear Classic. So
I've hit my head a lot, so and I'm old. I don't remember much, but yeah, that was fun to go there. And actually, I was in Jennerstown, Pennsylvania, this last weekend to a race. But yeah, I'd love to get. You know, in Cup, you go to a lot of racetrack, but you never see the area. You go in, you race, you go home.
mhm.
And we used to go there like on a Thursday. Atlanta used to open Wednesday. I mean, wow. And now they fly in, don't even
In and out,
practice.
and yeah,
They fly in, race, and go home, which is nice. But I bought a motor coach for that reason. I was the first guy to have one, a big motor coach, and so my family could go with me. Earnhardt used to say, "You guys camping out?" This is all in the book. I'm telling you the book. And I said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. You need an airplane." I said, "Well, where's your airplane parked?" "Well, at the airport." I said, "Oh, you sleeping in it tonight?" "No, you're sleeping down at the Holiday Inn, and they rent those rooms by the hour. You better check the sheets." "You son of a gun!" He'd yell at me. We go back and forth, and yeah. He
What
said he
was
never.
that relationship? Because obviously I've read a lot of headlines that you were the only one to ever intimidate him, but it sounds like you guys were friends a little bit, or was it more
Started
uh
out for
okay.
as soon as I won, the friendship goes away. Yeah, well, in the beginning when I got the first ride, we'd go to dinner together. My kids went down to the lake house, and my two boys would ride Dale Jr.'s go kart. They're all about the same age, and Kelly. And one week, one race, Earnhardt came up and whacked me in the shoulder. He loved to hit you, either in the car or out of the car. It didn't matter. He loved to hit you. "You owe me $100." I said, "What are you talking about? Your kids came down and wore the tires off of Dale Jr.'s go kart. You owe me $100." Now this is way back in the early '80s, but I have a whole section about Dale and I in the book, and pretty interesting. Dale Jr. On his podcast talked about it. He said, "Geoff says some really nice things about my dad," and I did. Away from the racetrack, he was a whole different guy. He helped a lot of people, use his airplane, whatever, help him money wise. Put that helmet on, he turned into a animal, saying it mildly. But the last sentence in the paragraph or chapter about him, I said, and I found out later that Dale actually hated me. "Junior got on a podcast, and he said, I don't know why Bodine said that. Where did he get that information from?" I called him up. I said, "Junior, you told me that. I never would have said that about your dad only if you told me or your sister, and you told me, well, I didn't think you'd use it. I said, when you write a book, you got to be honest. You got to tell the truth. Well, yeah, because it's in a book. I drove a late model with Rick Henry, Levi Garrett car, and Robert G was the crew chief. And Robert G was their grandfather. Dale's first wife was Robert G's daughter. And so they love Granddad. Oh, he's a great guy. He's a great guy. Built beautiful cars. Of course, had T-shirts and hats with Levi Garrett on, and some had my name on it, and give the kids. And if they wore them and Dale saw them, he'd take their hats off and their shirts off and step on them and burn them.
Oh my!
You'd think, yeah, he liked me a lot, right? Burn them.
Wow.
Granddad gave it to us. Yeah, but that Bodine's on there. You aren't wearing that stuff. So he didn't like me at all. I got him in trouble, but that's all. That's in the book too. And
yeah, I'm definitely.
Yeah, there's some good stuff in the book.
I'm definitely right after I'm done with this. So I'm really gonna buy the book and definitely use the Square website and have you sign it and read all about it. So
send me your address and I'll just send you one.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So,
Send that to me.
Yeah, that sounds great. So I can't thank you enough for being my first guest on this podcast. I figured it'd be so perfect to have the person who ended up buying Alan Kulwicki Racing, and you got to work with Danny Cameron and Paul Andrews and a lot of people that are part of the program. So thanks so much for joining me, and look forward to hearing all of these stories in your book.
Well, like I said earlier, it was my pleasure and just unbelievable opportunity to buy that team. And like I said before, I wish Alan was still here and that hadn't happened, but it did. And so I'm very thankful that I did buy the team and won some races and tried to carry on his name, tradition, his history with him, about him. And so I'm very honored to be the guy that bought the team.
100%. Yeah, it definitely is pretty cool that you carried on the engineering part and working on your race car yourself as Alan would have wanted. So it's cool that you're able to carry that tradition on.
Well, thanks. Well, it's been great
thanks
talking
for coming
Bryce.
on.
Another one of our Midwest Tour Rookie of the Year contenders from Columbus. Here comes Bryce Miller.